Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 223 of TDI. This is Dr. O on the horn to start per usual. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, my best friend, and musclehead actor aficionado, Ricky Flicks. We're here to talk about one of the most divisive blockbuster franchises, the franchise that people love to love, but also love to hate. How excited, Ricky Flicks, are you for Fast X?
Well, this is my movie now. We did the summer blockbuster auction. This was the last pick. Used the rest of my budget on it. This is my movie. And I'll tell you what. I was preparing for this weekend to see Fast X by rewatching not all 9 or 10, I guess, including Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious movies, but watching a few, particularly Fast 9. Okay, I started with Fast 9. I watched the first 20 minutes and I turned it off. I don't. That was my first time rewatching that movie. It wasn't good.
Where can we stream that, Ricky?
I watched it on HBO Max. I think it's also on Peacock. But my God, I don't want to say I regret my pick. I stand with Scotty Furious, but yeah, that's not. I don't know if it's anything like Fast 9. It's not good.
So F9, Ricky, was the first ever Fast and Furious movie I saw in movie theaters. Ever. Yeah, and my God, it was a disappointment. Like, I had nothing to base it off of other than like the original Fast and Furious movies I saw, right? OG Paul Walker. We're talking Cuz. We're talking early, like Vin Diesel, right? Like 2001 through 2003-ish Tokyo Drift era, even though they weren't in that film. I was excited for F9 because it was bringing everybody back, even the Tokyo Drift guys. And it did not change my thoughts on what the franchise was. If anything, it lived up to what my expectations were. And that is like, this is just mindless entertainment. It seems like from the early reviews, the critics think that this is going to be loved by people that love the Fast and Furious franchise. But if you were a hater already, this solidifies, right, your feelings towards this franchise.
I am not a hater. I want that on the record.
Oh, Ricky, no, you own this movie. And I'm excited to hear you and Scotty Furious versus me on Monday when we are reviewing Fast X officially. But we have a great preview for Fast X. And it comes on the heels of some very exciting news for most Fast and Furious fans. And it was reported by The Wrap, WRAP, Humberto Gonzalez, that The Rock will be appearing in this film. And this comes after literally, I would say, almost a decade's worth of feuding between the star of Fast and Furious, Vin Diesel, and basically a latecomer to the Fast and Furious franchise, the Fast Five, with The Rock. And he had his own spinoff, Hobbs and Shaw. It looked very grim that he would ever appear in these films, despite the expansive cast that they have. But look where we are now, Ricky Flex. What was your reaction when you found out The Rock was going to be in this movie?
When I found out it was Humberto Gonzalez, I knew it was legit. I didn't believe it at first, but my initial reaction was we were robbed of one of the greatest potential movie theater moments of all time.
And I heard it was a post-credit, dude. Like, it's crazy that this was on mainstream Hollywood, like Hollywood reporting platforms, that we're hearing about a post-credit scene. It almost gave me Henry Cavill, Black Adam vibes.
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah, and The Rock is associated with it. He's like the opposite end of the spectrum, right? With him appearing in the post-credit. It's kind of wild to think about.
The feud, though, between Vin Diesel, who owns this franchise, and The Rock, who kind of revitalized it, put it on a different stratosphere, makes it arguably bigger than Henry Cavill post-credit scene.
It's going to do better financially, for sure. I think it's going to benefit more.
But I think we're missing a big thing in this news, unless I just was zoning out and I missed it. We thought there was only going to be 2 movies, this one and another one.
Yeah.
It was announced there's going to be 3.
That was the other big news of this franchise. We are getting a trilogy on top of, right, Fast X, including Fast X, to conclude this. And I'm not convinced that's going to be the end. Like, I have no reason to believe it. I thought this was potentially going to be the last one. I thought, like, okay, now we're pushing it to the 11th movie. It's going to be the last one. But you got to end it on an even number, 12 movies flat. not including Hobbs and Shaw. I think it's not going to be over after 12.
I think it's going to keep going on, but will Vin Diesel keep doing it is the question. I think yes.
But I think this is going to go into the feuding that we talked about, where it's like Vin Diesel always viewed himself as like the Tony Stark of this universe, the Robert Downey Jr., where everything is like going to eventually come back to him, revolve around him. Like, do you think this, and like The Rock comes in and it's like, oh, we kind of have not only a rivalry on screen, but off screen. And it's a bunch of, this is like almost how I view this week for the Drive-In podcast. It's like the testosterone week. It's the muscle head actor week. On the Drive-In, we did Pumping Iron as our throwback review on Monday. We got the Vin Diesel Rock feud. And then we have a Conor McGregor doc that's on Netflix right now too. Like I was like, that's getting a lot of press that we could eventually talk about. But just having these two feuding, Vin Diesel, I can't imagine him stepping away because his ego's so big. Like, how could this go on without him? And it could say like Hobbs and Shaw, that was the first Fast and Furious without Vin Diesel, and it did pretty damn well. So I think it just added to the fuel to the fire, you know?
I agree. But I think another instant reaction to the news was, this is Ricky Hot Takes. I know this isn't the checkup, but
here we go.
Does The Rock need this movie? Like, need this franchise?
Wow. It's just something we should talk. Oh, let's talk about it now. It's interesting because I think he needed the franchise to launch his career into the stratosphere that he's now at.
But
like
the comeback,
it's almost like a coming full circle type of thing, where it's like, hey, The Rock like has one of the most, I guess, infamous flops in quite some time with Black Adam. He's got to get back, put himself back on the map here, return to what got him there in the first place with the Fast and Furious. I think there is some truth into that take, Ricky Flex.
Yeah, and like, it's not like he hasn't been in stuff that people have seen. Like, he's still one of the most viewed actors in Hollywood when you think of Red Notice, and if you want to believe Netflix or of how many viewers they had. But that one, Black Adam, obviously box office bomb, but people saw it. Jungle Cruise, like, that was that. I don't know what to say, but like Jumanji, like, people still see his movies. It's just like, none of these are good. No. And we know they weren't going to be good, but they weren't entertaining. And I think that's why we watch The Rock, is because he's entertaining. And he's doing a Jungle Cruise 2. He's doing a San Andreas 2. And he's doing a freaking Santa Claus movie. Like, he's doing the similar stuff, and he's going back to the well, but he's at his lowest of lows right now since before Fast 5. So I think it's kind of a sign saying, hey, I kind of need to jumpstart my career. He's not on life support or anything like that, or like, he's not getting like the clear. It's more like, hey, your car battery's dying. You might need to replace it soon. But the car is still good.
Yeah. He's like more known as a figure in like pop culture than he is as like an action star now. It's like Definitely. He's just like, it's like he just does this on the side. He's more about the presence of The Rock, whether it be on social media, whether people like having prospects about his political career. And it's just like, he is more of just like a charismatic presenter, performer that is like, will headline a movie that he knows isn't going to perform well. It's almost expected that the movie's going to perform terribly, both critically, not necessarily financially. I think that's why like Fast and Furious, they want to like prolong this for 2 more movies. You bring back The Rock, and also has the off-screen, on-screen type of like drama that makes this franchise so entertaining. But I would also throw a hot take on top of your hot take, Ricky Flex. Ready?
Oh boy.
Creating a fire of hot takes right now. Okay. Creating a bonfire. That's what we're going to call this. The bonfire. Is Fast 5 The Rock's best movie?
It's a great question.
I think it means the most to him out of any movie he's ever had. He thought that was going to be Black Adam. Yeah.
Well, you thought it would be.
You look at his filmography leading into 2011. I mean, he was doing The Tooth Fairy not too earlier. He was doing a cameo alongside Samuel L. Jackson and the other guys. Like, he was not The Rock yet.
So are we?
And then he comes in as the villain opposite Dominic Toretto in Fast 5, and that's where, how like, I know you were about to speak, but I just wanted to jump on. There's this like trend going on. How
dare you?
There is this trend going on social media. Like, when was the moment that Fast and Furious left reality? right? The first 4 movies, it's basically street racing
It's
movies.
Fast Five.
It's literally when The Rock signed on, that's when this franchise kicked it up a notch and went full blown action movies. And honestly was absurd. Okay, it's only gotten like more and more absurd as the movies have gone on. But it's when The Rock signed on. You know, that's when they kicked it up a notch. Like his influence on the movie was like, and on the franchise was felt immediately. So I think this is like the biggest movie for him because it showed the potential star power he had and what he meant to action films.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one day we should do a power rankings of the Rock movies because that is an interesting argument. Because like you have I don't want to call them great, but they're low key great side roles, very minor supporting characters like the other guys. Or how about Get Smart?
Yeah,
Like
he was okay. The twist at the end of the movie was
right,
fine.
but like I like Gridiron Gang. How can we forget Gridiron Gang?
How could we forget? How was he not in The Longest Yard, by the way, with Sandler? How was he not in that movie?
Yeah, that is weird. Like that was an easy slide in for him. But yeah, like is that the best movie? Like
the Great Khali and like other wrestlers are in Stone Cold Steve Austin are in it. You could The Rock like wasn't on like speed dial potentially to be in that movie.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just viewed as the tooth fairy in the game plan too much, you know? Like, oh, he can't do like baby back. Like, he can't do the prison. I don't know. He's too soft. But yeah, that's a really hard question.
Like Jumanji movies, they make like close to $1 billion. You know,
Rampage did well at the box office.
Rampage,
too.
San Andreas, like that era of The Rock. They're like it showed he can be
Skyscraper.
He's a solo. Yeah, he can carry a movie on his own. But are they good movies? Absolutely not. And I think Fast Five is literally his best movie.
You could make the argument. Disney live action's been tough. I was gonna say Moana.
Has potential. Moana's probably his best movie, but it's like also animated. It's just The Rock animated being a voice performer.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Yeah,
I drafted that. Remember that? One of the best movie songs or songs by actors, not real singers.
Yeah. Well done by The Rock. I don't know if I'm ready to see him in a wig again, almost like when he did the live action Hercules. He's going to be doing that with Moana.
Scorpion King.
So the game plan today, we're going to go through the feud between The Rock and Vin Diesel. And when we do that, it's going to also be like a preview for Fast X and like this highly anticipated return to the franchise for The Rock. And Ricky Flex, before we jump into it, 1 to 10. What's your anticipation for Fast X? You claimed this movie. You're excited to see it, right? You were disappointed in F9. What is your rating out of 10, your anticipation?
I'll tell you one thing. It's not a 10. I am excited for our review. Scotty Furious back on.
I'm more excited for the year. That's why I'm excited to hate on the movie even before.
Okay. Give it a chance.
I had some nice battles with Scotty Furious last time.
I'll go 4. Maybe a 5.
Wow.
Dude, I'm telling you, rewatching F9 was tough. I forgot about it. I really did. I didn't think it was that bad. I don't know. Maybe because like it was movie theaters like in 2021. It was movie theaters were just coming back. We saw it with Scotty Furious. I don't know. I just didn't have good vibes watching that today.
Not good vibes. I mean, if you're at a 4, I gotta be like at a 2. You're telling me you're not excited for Momoa?
I'm excited to see The Rock. So I'll bump it up to a 6.
Yes, but how much of The Rock are we getting? You know, that
doesn't matter. It's gonna be a cinematic moment.
And the fact that they spoiled it, that would have been electric. If you like, we were talking about it. If the post credit is just a dark room and it's Dom Toretto's like basically standing there in a spotlight and like in the corner. And then all of a sudden, you have a slowly emerging Hobbs played by The Rock. Just go towards him, stop in front of him as if it's like a weigh-in for a fight, and they just stare at each other. Or you can do Rocky 3, where they throw a punch and it stops at the last second, and then you pick up the next movie with the fight.
That would be good too. That would be good. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they announced like a Hobbs and Shaw 2 or something too. I just want to throw that out there. Jason Statham could be the post-credit scene, not Vin Diesel. I'm just another hot take that could happen. It could be Jason, because we know Jason Statham's in the movie and he helps out with the gang. It could be him in the post-credit scene in The Rock and him realigning.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to the timeline here, Ricky Flex. So The Rock joins the Fast and Furious family in 2011. Fast Five takes on the role of Luke Hobbs, federal agent who is tasked with tracking down Toretto and his partner Brian O'Connor, played by the late great Paul Walker. Um, so that was the first appearance by The Rock. The Rock, previous to that, we mentioned he has movies like The Tooth Fairy, I think 2010. He has The Other Guys, and it's very small time roles. And The Rock, he's still a part of WWE, but it's not like the mid and early 2000s where he has a stranglehold on the WWE. He's making that full transition, right, to becoming an actor, and then eventually like going from family friendly fare to all out action with Fast and Furious. And Vin Diesel at this time, right? He is all in on Fast and Furious. He's no stranger to blockbuster films, unsuccessful ones, I'll say, though, whether it be Chronicles of Riddick, you can do Triple X. His baby is still Fast and Furious. And what you're going to see here, he is the godfather of this family. Everything in the Fast and Furious goes through Vin Diesel. So he has a lot of star power in the WWE world coming, an ego with The Rock, right? That's not full blown as we see it today. And then you got someone who views himself as the Robert Downey Jr. equivalent to the MCU with him in Fast and Furious. This is something where you could taste, right, that there was going to be some fire around this relationship, and let alone they're playing enemies in the goddamn movie and they're throwing punches at one another. So movie does extremely well. One of the highest rated movies in the Fast and Furious franchise, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, whole shebang. It's recognized, I would say, as a top rate like action movie from the last 15 years. Probably a lot of people say the best in the franchise. Like Furious 7, people say is also up there with the handling of Paul Walker. But I'll just leave it here. The movie is a hit. All of a sudden, we have Fast and Furious is almost viewed differently from the first four movies. Would you say that, Ricky Flex, when Fast 5 comes out, we'll go street level racing, and then all of a sudden we're dragging like saves through, right? Like Brazil.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. That's where like the out of this world moment, like we're outside of reality. How is this happening? It's Fast 5. But saying that at the same time, that's not a diss because I still think it's the best in the series. And it's the most rewatchable. And The Rock has a part in that. But I'll say this. Like, I think outside The Rock, it's still like, I don't think The Rock like puts it over the top. I think it's the best movie, even like, I don't know, not without The Rock. Can't really see Fast 5 without The Rock. But it's not like because of The Rock, the movie's better. It's just overall, the movie's better than the rest.
Yes. And so we go through three movies, right? We go through Furious 7 to 2015, and this is the first time we see like remnants of this tumultuous relationship. And that's August 2016. This is going to be really fun, Ricky, because we're going to go through like some of these captions and quotes, and it sounds like petty internet like feuds, but only imagine what's going on in these trailers on set and eventually like what becomes so clearly evident to audiences. But The Rock hints at the feud on Instagram in August of 2016. He deleted this post, but he was praising the female co-stars, but also criticizing the male co-stars of the Fast and Furious franchise. He says the males didn't conduct themselves as stand-up men. And then he calls them quote unquote candy asses. And that seems like it's very, like when I read that, I remember hearing that the first time, I just imagined actual Hobbs calling like them candy asses. I thought he was talking as his character, and I didn't know whether to take it seriously or not. But like when you heard him call him a candy ass, like it's making Vin Diesel look pretty soft, you know? And he says like he's like criticizing the men on this film. And like I wonder if like because later on beef with other members here who might have a loyalty to Vin Diesel, Tyrese Gibson later goes at The Rock. So it's like these two, I just imagine these two absolutely despising The Rock, and we're three movies deep, and they're kind of like sick of his shit a little bit, you know? But do you remember when that came out when he called them the candy asses?
I honestly thought it was like I looked at it as like not like him as Hobbs, but him as a WWE wrestler. Like, oh, you candy ass, like not really real. Yeah. Like, you know, like that's kind of how I looked at it, like more of like a joking way, not like it was like a serious feud. You know, like I'm sorry if you're in love with WWE, but it's fake. Like I don't know. I was just expecting that sort of thing. Like
Yeah, because is it trying to drum up drama for the
yeah,
next
yeah, and it's
film,
a
drum up the box
huge
office?
franchise in its prime, like that, like because this was the height. Like Fast Five was the height of the movies, but the height of the Fast and Furious wasn't at Fast Five because that's when people came back in and or got introduced to Fast and Furious, saying like, "Oh, this franchise is sick. I need to see this." And this was like during like, oh my god, after six, the Fate of the Furious, or right, or crap, yeah, I think it's Fate. No, is Fate six or
That's
eight?
8, I think.
Eight is Fate. What's six? Oh, six is just Fast and the Furious.
6 is Fast and Furious 6.
Yeah, and then four is the Fast and the Furious.
The worst titles
In
for
a
a
franchise
franchise.
of all time. I don't know how, yeah, a mind pretzel right there for me. But that's why this was like, oh, like there's no way he's like actually doing this, but he did it.
Yeah, and then it got real because a couple months later he confirms the beef to the LA Times while he's promoting the Fate of the Furious, and he's promoting Moana at this time. The Rock was asked like about the feud. It's like, hey, you deleted this post. We clearly were talking about Vin Diesel. He doubled down and he said that he was, quote, very clear with what he said, end quote, when he called him a candy ass. And then you mentioned this earlier, like trying to drum up box office. Like in the same interview, The Rock even like tried to put a spin on it with Vin Diesel, saying that it was trying to drum up right the box office. That he like he was saying that the box office went up, it skyrocketed after his feud with Vin Diesel. And this is like a very Hollywood answer, but also it's a very political answer, one that we're not surprised by The Rock. And this is like The Rock does not have many moments where he comes off like a jerk, like a dick, right? This is one where it's like, man, you're like the newcomer to this franchise. You're the bankable star. Everyone knows you're helping drum up the box office, but at the same time, like you're making this dude potentially look a little bad. But what we're about to see from Vin Diesel and his response is that he doesn't back down. If anything, he escalates situations, and for that, I actually respect Vin Diesel. Honestly, both these actors somewhat rub me the wrong way in a lot of different manners. But I think the Vin Diesel part of this, like he is Fast and the Furious. Like The Rock, he obviously meant a lot to it, but like when it comes to Fast and Furious, Vin Diesel is like the Robert Downey Jr. of that universe.
Yeah, you could have any like major actor come in here, in their prime, but at the end of the day, it's who's at the center of the universe. It's center of the franchise. It's Vin Diesel. He's making all the calls, and it even goes down to like the Fast Five scene where neither of them refused to lose the fist fight they had in Brazil, and like because it's in their contracts that they can't lose a fight on screen,
Yeah.
so they just ended it by like them both falling and losing track of each other because neither one of them can lose in a fight. So you got to respect Vin Diesel for staying on brand here. And I think with The Rock, it's interesting because for me, this is when The Rock made the change to a more political, nice guy figure, you know?
Image.
Thank you. Like 2016 was Central Intelligence. I think that was the moment when The Rock became like, oh, he's a nice guy. Like Moana came out that year.
Pressed with Kevin Hart,
Kevin Hart as well, Disney movie. He has Jumanji the next year, Rampage video game movie, So it's just like, oh, before that he was doing San Andreas and other Fast and Furious movies, but like he's not real, and like he's doing Pain and Gain, which is like has drugs and like drugs in it, murder, like him cutting off people's hands. Like he's doing other like violent things. So like this was when he made the switch. So like him coming out all political like this was kind of like the turning point for himself, like not just from in the Fast and the Furious movies, but also on a career level.
Yeah, and this is where it's like it becomes alpha versus alpha, where it's The Rock's like the franchise is nowhere at the heights that I took it to, and Vin Diesel's like I've been here the entire time, and this is where Vin Diesel finally acknowledges the feud in 2017. He was getting interviewed by USA Today. Vin Diesel, like he used to do a bunch of Instagram posts where he like reassured and he would address Fast and Furious fans directly, and he said in this interview that him and The Rock still loved each other. And then he said, quote, he called him Uncle Dwayne, right, in his household. That's what his kids call him. And what we're going to see, like Vin Diesel, he always says like they seem like nice things, but he'll throw a little bit of shade at the end with some of these
Yes,
quotes.
yes.
So he's as a producer, Diesel claims he and The Rock didn't always see eye to eye, and sometimes their big personalities got in the way while working. In the article, he says, "quote It's not always being an alpha, and now we have two alphas." End quote. So like Vin Diesel also, it's like he's the opposite of modest. Like he views himself as a big deal. He knows how integral he is to the franchise, and he understands how big The Rock is, but at the end of the day, Diesel explained that he was always rooting for The Rock's success. He said, quote, Dwayne has only got one Vin in his life. Dwayne Johnson only has one big brother in this film, and that's me. End quote. So he's rooting for his success, and he knows how much he means to him, but he's calling himself big brother to The Rock. And like, The Rock has a big ego himself. He doesn't like anyone calling himself a big brother to him. It's crazy.
In my personal opinion, I don't think Vin Diesel was purposely throwing shade. I think he actually thinks he views himself as a mentor, because we'll go through it later on with a couple Instagram posts. He actually views him as a mentor or a big brother to The Rock. So when he says he's called Uncle Dwayne in the house, I think he's serious. Like, he does view him as a brother.
The Rock responded to that brother comment, and he said basically, "I only have a step brother or something like that. That's my only brother." He's just like saying, "No, I don't condone anything he says. I hate this dude." It was so clear that these guys just had absolute beef with one another, and this movie, Fate of the Furious, still hadn't come out yet. It was crazy. They're just doing promo, and they absolutely despise each other. Okay, so. Then we have what's going on F9. F9 is the next movie in the franchise. The Rock is not in F9. But before F9, we have Hobbs and Shaw, right? There's production of that movie. It's the first ever spin-off in the Fast and Furious universe. You could argue Tokyo Drift was kind of a spin-off, but this is a true blue spin-off. And it's like, this is where The Rock, he kind of has leverage right now. He is in a Fast and Furious movie without Vin Diesel. And then there's this story that F9 is getting pushed back and delayed because of what's happening with Hobbs and Shaw. And that brings in Tyrese Gibson to the fold here.
Crazy.
So, and this is before all those delays during COVID. So F9 facing multiple delays before June 2021 release. First delay was announced back in 2017. Tyrese Gibson took to Instagram and expressed his anger at the film's delay. He put the blame on The Rock, accusing him of making the franchise all about him. F9 was originally delayed due to the release of Hobbs and Shaw. And then we'll just start there. Tyrese Gibson entering the fold, also notoriously bad at social media.
Very
Tyrese Gibson. He puts himself in movies. Like, he thinks Morbius is part of the MCU, but he's also just not afraid. He doesn't care how he appears. He's like the definition of a Hollywood star who just doesn't understand like fans and like the fanfare of it all. He just like, he has like a very singular view, almost tunnel vision. And now you have taking sides in the family off screen. And this is where I'm starting to think there is something drumming up here. This is like WWE.
Yeah, it is like WWE, but it's not scripted. That's the best part. And like Tyrese Gibson, like Roman, like I think he's gotten hijacked by Succession now as who's the best Roman in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Tough look for him. But at the end of the day, he escalated this because Vin Diesel was very quick, very defensive for The Rock. He went to The Rock side saying, "Oh, like this is fine, like this isn't happening, like you're wrong." But once you decided to pick sides, that just ends it altogether.
Yeah. And that's where you see the loyalties lie. And like, despite like The Rock and his status, so like, hey, Vin was here the entire time. Tyrese has been here longer. And the Vin Diesel's response, you knew he was loving all like the hate that The Rock was getting from this. You know, I just imagine him smiling, licking his chops, rubbing his hands together, saying, "Oh, everyone hates The Rock now. Like, this is good. This is good." But in April 2018, The Rock clarifies the beef after Fate of the Furious' release. Because Fate of the Furious, this is where you knew something was up. The Rock and Vin Diesel didn't film a single scene together throughout the film. After their electric scenes in Fast 5, right? And the previous two films, they don't have a single scene together. And this like gives the opportunity for The Rock, Jason Statham have this chemistry. So like the fact that they had a fight, right, in Fate of the Furious, it actually opened up the opportunity for The Rock to have a spinoff alongside Jason Statham, which is kind of nuts.
A lot of money there.
And like The Rock confirmed, like they didn't have a single scene together because of their feud to Rolling Stone. In that same interview, The Rock attributed their tension to a difference in professionalism and movie making. The two had a serious conversation apparently about in The Rock's trailer. And I wish I was a fly on the wall during that argument. Did it come to pushes? Did it come to blows?
Testosterone levels were high.
I do. They mustn't like they needed a mediator. Jason Statham, like his like coming up to both of their like shoulders, just like standing in between
Not
them.
even.
So they had a serious conversation. The best conclusion seemed to be for them just not to work together. And then The Rock came out and he says he wishes Vin Diesel no ill will. That's a quote before he laughed and he rescinded the comment. And he said he was grateful for the clarity between him and Diesel. But it seems like after that moment, there is not going to be another movie between these guys, right? It's two alphas that can't see eye to eye.
There's only one ball, Doctor. There's only one ball.
Yeah. It's a little bit of Kobe Shaq going on here.
A little bit. And size-wise, like kind of too. Like Vin Diesel's like 6 foot, 5 inches shorter. Like Kobe's a foot shorter than Shaq, but whatever. You get my point.
Mm-hmm. And then this feud lives on. And like they stopped making movies together. But Vin Diesel then 2021 has an interview with Men's Health. And this is where it gets great. And this quote was almost more absurd than a car in space in F9. So when The Rock joined the Fast and Furious family in 2011, he was fresh off his career as a wrestler, according to Vin Diesel, sort of, right? He's kind of out of the wrestling world. It's clear that he wants to become a full-fledged actor. Diesel gave him a hard time, he said, because he had to give him quote unquote tough love to get a solid performance out of The Rock, as if Vin Diesel himself is trying to win a Best Actor nomination get a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars. He said he had to basically get The Rock riled up so he would give a good performance. He's basically, this is what I'm talking about, where he's saying things in a positive manner, but he's throwing shade and basically calling The Rock a shitty actor the entire time. Right? And
I really don't think he's trying to throw shade, which is the funniest part.
Like, I think he's like, I think these are very well conceived quotes for these interviews to also have that WWE feel, the ones that he apparently hates that The Rock has. And he wants to basically be his mentor and say, this is how you become an actor. Dude, I was in Saving Private Ryan. I was the voice in the Iron Giant. Let me show you how it's done. That's how it comes off.
I really think, like, maybe because he was like the Iron Giant, Groot, Saving Private Ryan's not the smartest guy there either. I'm not calling The Rock, sorry, not The Rock, Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel dumb. I'm just saying, like, I just think that he's naive, I guess.
It's crazy. I don't know. Dude,
I don't know.
Let's just keep going because it gets worse. The Rock is totally stopped responding to like Vin Diesel. He doesn't want to interact with him. He just want to answer questions about him. But Vin Diesel, he keeps coming, right? He gave him the tough love on and off the screen. And then in November 2021, Vin Diesel basically begs The Rock to come back for F10, right? Or Fast X. So he did it through Instagram. And this is where we have the birth of quote unquote little brother Dwayne. He calls him little brother in the post, right? He attempts to appeal to The Rock with love from his own children and like basically because he's Uncle Dwayne. And then he says he has an obligation to Paul Walker and the Fast and Furious franchise's destiny. Kind of a low blow. In an interview with Vanity Fair, The Rock responded by laughing out at Diesel's earlier comments and about tough love and saying that, quote, there's no way I would dignify any of that bullshit with an answer, end quote. That's from The Rock. He's fed up right now. Then Diesel claimed that they're brothers, and he said, well, this is the quote I said earlier. So The Rock responded by saying, I have one big brother. It's my half brother. That's it, end quote. So after that, that's the first time The Rock has like responded in years regarding the Vin Diesel comments. And then the next thing we hear about The Rock and Fast and Furious, he's going to be in a post credit for Fast X
this week.
Crazy.
Which is 2 years after that.
What are the odds we're going to see them in a scene together for the next Fast and Furious movie? Like, have they really buried the hatchet at this point?
No, they're both alphas. They'll never forget it. You know, Shaq and Kobe, they never forgot what happened. But
Little
they made
brother
Pete.
Dwayne. Little brother Dwayne.
He
doubled down by saying, like, you are learning from me. And look at all this. Like The Rock has the most. I think he's the most followed actor on social media.
I believe so.
Right? Yeah. Instagram's got over 100 million people that follow him. And Vin Diesel, just like the gall to go against him. Potential, like, future president of the United States calling him little brother. Can you imagine Vin Diesel, like, once The Rock, let's say.
He wouldn't be out in the White House.
2042, and it's The Rock has just been, right, he's just won the presidency. And Vin Diesel lays out a post. Congratulations to my little brother, Mr. President.
Oh my God.
It's not off the table. It's not off the table. You know what? The Rock, put him in your cabinet.
Put him in your cabinet.
Secretary of State.
That would be box office. That might be the most liked Instagram post of all time.
And this is like, these are like available. You can go see these from Vin Diesel's account. You could see these videos, these pleas, right, to have The Rock come back. And I never thought we'd see the day. And that's why when this news came out that he's going to be in Fast X, I thought we should have an emergency pod and do exactly what we're doing right now. Because this is like
major.
One of the biggest action franchises, arguably the biggest action star in the world right now that isn't really, he was related to major IP. Right, Black Adam's not really going to live on, but he was related to Fast and Furious for so long. Just shut up with Jungle Cruise. This is like kind of like, this is a chance for him to have his mini comeback. Opens up the opportunity for Hobbs and Shaw too.
Yes.
And this is like, I think, a very strategic. It's less about the relationship. I think The Rock's willing to swallow his pride so he can get the bad taste of Black Adam out of his system.
And other things. And I think it helps. Like he's a political navigator. Like I think this is it. Like I really do think that. And I honestly, you know what I love to see? I would love to see this little mean streak and these quotes come back again. I would love to hear him swear in interviews and get a little bit of that WWE back in him because he's got a little too political, a little too daddish for me. And even in Hobbs and Shaw, you got that the pancake scene with Ryan Reynolds in that, and he's literally a dad in that. I want to see The Rock be more like, I don't know, like the other guys type of mean streak in him, you know, a little witty, like Fast Five, a little bit like Fast Five, but a little like, yeah, like keep up with the wittiness and cleverness that we know you from WWE. I want to see more of that back in The Rock. And I think that could help catapult his career once again.
And I feel like The Rock's been taking himself a little too seriously in a lot of these recent blockbusters. And like Fast Five, like he was like, you could have like pulled him out of that movie and inserted him into Den of Thieves, and it wouldn't have been that different. You know, it's just like him next to Gerard Butler, like type of performance.
I would have liked him in Den of Thieves.
Like if you just lean into like how corny the franchise is, you know, and don't take yourself so seriously that like you become like almost you can't distinguish an actor from the actor Rock from The Rock. Like you have to go back to like actually playing characters, and like Hobbs is him playing a character, right? And like towing a line. That's what I want to see The Rock do. And like when you look at his upcoming filmography, it's like Jungle Cruise 2. Yep. It's San Andreas 2. It's Red Notice 2. It's like all these characters he's already
Santa
played.
Claus movie.
Red 1, where he's basically playing himself like almost like a selfie Instagram video. You can just tell that's going to be the performance the entire time. And you're going to be compared to Violent Night, potentially, if you want to make it like a badass Santa, which already has happened and it's been R-rated. So it's like, and he's doing Big Trouble in Little China, apparently, which is like a remake, I believe. But Moana, this is something where it's like Moana live action as well. Disney. I think he needs the Moana and he needs Fast and Furious to get to a point where it's like, yes, you are like make your return as king of the box office, because I don't think he is right now at all.
No, well, Tom Cruise is king of the box office.
Yeah, he had a chance though. The Rock had a chance.
Yeah, you did. You're right. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. I think The Rock, he's gotten too like family friendly. And the filmography is too family friendly. And at the end of the day, like, who was the number one movie at the box office last year? Avatar, I guess. But like, Top Gun Maverick was the steal of the
Right
show.
there. Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. Like, I think box office, like, yeah, sure, you always get the kids, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, what are you best at? And sure, you're good at that, but like, you're not viewed positively right now because you're doing so much of the same freaking thing. And like, when you're going out to the Super Bowl saying like, let's play, like, I don't know, like, that's just not what you want to be doing right now. I think doing interviews like this is like, I'm not dignifying any of this bullshit and like coming out hot. Like, that's what we want to see.
The Rock
And
could have been
garner some
something
attention.
more, bro. He could have been something more, but it's almost too late. Like, it's like if you want to go from WWE wrestler to action star, and then almost what Dave Bautista has done. Like, there was an avenue for The Rock, but he got so obsessed with just being the biggest name on the planet, the most famous dude on the planet. That's like out the window
Yes.
now.
Agreed.
But speaking of sticking to right things you're good at, let's look at the upcoming films for Vin Diesel. So obviously you got the Fast franchise, you got the next trilogy in that series. You have Riddick, you got another Riddick movie on the way, and you got another Triple X movie on the way. This guy knows what his bread and butter is.
He knows his brand.
Yeah.
And
And
his
like
audience.
it seems like Vin Diesel, and he had the more of a classic start, obviously, when you think of Saving Private Ryan, Iron Giant. And then he just, when he had his opportunity, he knew he wasn't like a top tier actor. He latched down to those franchises and he never let go. And like, he has a very loyal fan base now, you know? And so,
For sure.
like, as much as him going against The Rock seems absurd, like, he has people that back him because they've been with Fast and Furious since 2001, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, that's why I would always say, like, Vin Diesel, you think you can go toe to toe with The Rock. You think that you're pushing back on him. You should just back down. But it's like, no, that's his franchise. And you can tell how much he cares about this franchise, which I respect. No matter how absurd it is, right? And no matter what turns they've taken, like, he's stuck with the fans, and the fans have stuck with him because they both shown loyalty, like, I would say both ways, you know? And The Rock, he left the franchise. He went against the family. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm wondering,
family.
like, once The Rock comes back, what is the fan reception going to be for people like Scotty Furious who are loyal? Does he want The Rock back? Does he need him back as much as like general audiences like sort of don't care
to say yes.
You know,
There's no doubt that he would say yes to that because you know what? At the end of the day, you fight with your family, but you love them. You know, you accept them back. And that's what's the same thing with Scotty Furious and the true hardcore Fast and Furious fans. They're going to welcome him back to the family with open arms, without a question.
And once I saw The Rock join this movie, Ricky Flex, I just thought on paper, we always talk about on paper, what do the best casts of all time look like? And forget about the roles that they're playing. Forget about the function of the movie itself, right?
Where's
The
this going?
quality of the movie. I'm just going to read right the names of this cast list for Fast X. So including The Rock, including Vin Diesel, right? Jason Statham, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Natalie Emmanuel, Charlize Theron, John Cena. We forget John Cena's in this movie. Brie Larson, Helen Mirren. It's Scott Eastwood, Jason Momoa. Alan Ritchson is in this movie too, who is like obviously up and coming actor. It's technically up and coming, right? He was recently in the Jack Reacher series. It's literally absurd. Danielle Melchior's in this. Recently appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was also in the Suicide Squad. Like that. This is like one of the best action movie casts of all time. This cast is like they're almost like JV Expendables.
I was thinking exactly. I was thinking of like a lower tier Expendables. JV. I like that. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I would like Idris Elba and Hobbs and Shaw was sick. I think Hobbs and Shaw is good. I would probably put that in the top 5 like easily in Fast and Furious movies. And Idris Elba was a good villain, and I wish like somehow they could bring him back to be like the villain against all these guys. That would be sick.
It was like literally just throwing The Rock in here was just a cherry on top. And that, like, for me, as someone who's not loyal to the Fast and Furious franchise, when I see this cast, I'm like, bring it on. Like, I don't even remember what happened at the end of last movie. John Cena goes to the good side. That's all I remember. Right? The car went to space and Kang came back. Like Han, excuse me.
Okay.
Sung Kang.
I don't think Kane's coming back soon, anytime soon.
Oh yeah, well, no, we won't go there. But Han comes back too, and then we had Bow Wow and Lucas Black in the movie too. This is just a name upon name, and that makes you want to go see the movie. And like Jason Momoa as a villain, we haven't seen him as a villain, have we? We just have him as hero. Aquaman, right? Early in his career, but Conan. It just seems like he's always been a protagonist. And now we're getting him as the villain, and I think he kind of is meant to play a villain with the way he speaks, right? Like the deep, hardened voice, and also just like the wild, savage type of look that he naturally has. Seems like he was born to play a Fast and Furious villain, and he's also something that I'm really looking forward to in this film.
He looks like a guy that's committed to this role and going all out. Like in all the promos, it's a little corny and cringy at times, but like at least he's giving it his all. You know, I think that's what you need in this type of movie. Someone that's just selling it. And I think he's doing that. And yeah, like what I like to see, like I just mentioned Idris Elba. Like he's just a good actor. So it's a little different. But like at least Jason Momoa is going to bring something different to the Fast and Furious movies as a villain, something a little more wonky, you know, because you had Jason Statham and his brother obviously being villains, Charlize Theron, kind of all
she
similar.
Can't really buy into the absurdity as much like a Jason Momoa.
Right. So I think exactly buying into the absurdity. And I think Jason Momoa with his playful acting does that. So it leans into, yes, we went past the point of no return out of reality franchise. We're not street racing. And Jason Momoa's villain is the perfect reason for that. A perfect perception of that.
And I was just looking at IMDb. I'm on IMDb, like running through these movies, and as we're wrapping up here, F9 is the least successful movie critically out of all the Fast and Furious movies. So I kind of see why they reinstalled The Rock here as well.
What did it get? What do you mean? Like, what did it get?
5.2. 5.2 out of 10. And the highest they ever got was Fast 5. What do you know Fast 5 got?
I think it did well, like 7.2. I think
7.3.
Yeah, and that's really good. Like, and then really good.
Fury 7. Fury 7's the next one. That's 7.1. It's not really shocking. But it just made me think when we come full circle here as we're wrapping up, it's the Fast and Furious needed The Rock, like The Rock needed Fast and Furious back in 2011 with Fast 5. Fast and Furious, they need a kickstart to the franchise. They want to continue this. Let's bring in this villainous Rock character. The Rock, I need to be more seen as an action movie star rather than a WWE wrestler. And now we have F10 coming back, where we're going to apparently have 3 more movies. We're coming off the lowest rated movie, coming like one of the first movies released after COVID theatrically, major releases. And then The Rock coming off Black Adam, a dud. He needs Fast and Furious. There's something poetic about this, Ricky Flex, that can be said. Okay. Any other thoughts on this relationship between The Rock and Vin Diesel, and anything you want to see aside from them throwing fisticuffs, right, in Fast X and beyond?
I would love, actually, I would not want that. I want a post-credit scene hinting at that. And then we get 2 more Fast and Furious movies of, all right, like, we get into it then, you know, because like this one's just like last second, and we don't want to like spoil everything. And then we have 2 other movies that will never achieve this. Like, I feel like this is Momoa's movie. Let it be his movie. And then next movie, get The Rock in there full time, back in action.
Civil War.
Scotty Furious. That was still an all-time take. I wish they would do that. That's so smart.
I'm gonna put a TikTok about that. I gotta put that up.
But yeah, that's what I would want to see. Just, hey, you know what? Post-credit scene, get the juices flowing again, get you excited maybe for Fast 11.
Don't put them on the same side.
Don't put them on the same side. And then maybe Fast 12, there's the biggest villain, or a team up of villains, Idris Elba perhaps. And then on the same side, because you got to defeat Black Superman, as Idris Elba will call himself.
It's one of the few franchises that almost has more intrigue off screen than it does on screen, and that's coming from a movie that has like cars that go into space, which is something to behold. All right, that's going to do it for our deep dive on the Vin Diesel and Rock relationship. Make sure you're tuned into the pod. We have a very exciting review coming Monday with our favorite Fast and Furious correspondent, Scotty Furious. I can't wait to duke it out with him. And then make sure you're also tuned in. Major News Week and Trailer Week. We're going to be going in on Friday with the checkup and trailer roundup. We got Superman castings to talk about. We have the Creator movie from Gareth Edwards. Just got a new trailer for highly anticipated sci-fi adventure. A lot of people are saying gives a little too much of like a Star Wars Rogue One vibe, just like Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One. A lot Jackie Chan returning, right? For the Karate Kid.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of stuff, right, with big names, and we are going to be breaking it all down. Twisters, Ricky, Twisters. You see that cast?
Great cast, Lee Isaac Chung, dude. Mission
Impossible trailer. Thank you, Ricky Flex. Make sure you check out, if you haven't seen the trailer, check out our feed on Twitter. We posted it for y'all where it was unleashed, and I can't wait to break that down with you, Ricky Flex. You might even go scene by scene there. So make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you comment, we'll comment back. If you're on YouTube, make sure you also check out our review on Pumping Iron, our Doc Talk, and that is one of the most fun I've had reviewing a movie with Ricky Flex in quite some time. Check that out. Listen for our impersonations of Lou Ferrigno, the personal favorite. Make sure you also, as I said, Twitter, follow us at the Drive-In Pod. Instagram, follow us at the Drive-In Pod. Graphics from the one and only Ricky Flex. Stay up to date. So, with that being said, that's going to do it for episode 223 of the Drive-In Podcast. Until next time, we will smell ya.